All right, we're going to try this again. I apparently did not hit go live enough times for YouTube to be recording. So here I am again. Um, I am Rosemary with Good Journeys Tarot, and today, in honor of National Coming Out Day, I thought I would get a little personal with you, share a little bit about myself. So if people come in and start chatting, then this will probably go on for a little while. If not, it's going to be very brief. A few years ago, and over the course of the last several years on Instagram and YouTube, I've mentioned that, I am transgender. I also am pansexual, and I read the tarot. And so those are some of the closets I've come out over the years. It's pretty much meaningless because mostly I am a single person. and and I actually have not built the clientele yet that I would desire, though I do have some recurring clients and enjoy reading for people at every opportunity that I get. One of the things that I may not have shared with you is that I'm also a little bit kinky. I actually am the art show director at a convention here in Atlanta called Frolicon, where we're a little bit nerdy and a little bit naughty. and so that is actually coming up this week. That's why I'm going to be on vacation. Normally, there are several tracks at the convention. One is the kink track, of course. One is the think track, where we have all kinds of things that happen. We have a gaming event. We have the art show. As I said, there's a vendor's hall. With many of my friends will vend in. There's an LGBTQ track now, and there have been some really great events focused on gender over the last several years as we've had the event. Or not had it, as the case may be with COVID. We finally decided to have it as a vaccination only event. So proof of vaccination is required to attend this year. And the city of Atlanta is currently under a mask mandate. So we will have to wear masks throughout the convention all weekend, as well as having to have been vaccinated to attend. I actually will be teaching a tarot class there this year, relating the tarot to sex, kink, and BDSM. Something that I am exploring as I study the tarot, and not something that I would say I'm an expert on. And so it'll really be a chance to discuss with others who share common interest about the tarot and how it relates to a specific aspect of our lives that we may not have considered before. What is interesting is that for the first time ever at this event, we actually have multiple events that are geared towards the metaphysical community. There is actually going to be a meditation for empaths class. There is a class where we will be doing a witch's wheel. And there's also a sex magic class, which is, expected at this particular convention. Things to look forward to. I do see one person watching, but I haven't seen them comment, so I don't know who it is. But if you have any questions or comments or thoughts, please do share them. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to share a little bit about my own journey to getting to where I am today, and being open about who I am and feeling more myself than I ever have before. Because people oftentimes will tell me, your life has been interesting. And then, like, I don't think of it that way. I tend to think of it as I've made a lot of mistakes to get to where I am today. And so I thought I'd share some of those mistakes with you. I grew up in South Carolina. It is in a small town in a rural county. And it was, it, you know, it was like everybody else's childhood that I knew, right? I mean, I went to church on Sundays with my parents. And, when we weren't in school, we were swimming in the river and fishing and hunting and all of that good stuff. I had an experience when I was very young where I felt a connection to spirit. And really at that age, the only way I knew to pursue that was through the means which my family provided me, which was at church. And so, one of my parents being Baptist and one being Presbyterian, we went back and forth between the churches for a little bit before we ended up being in a Presbyterian church for the long haul. I actually, in college, left the Presbyterian church to join the Baptist church. As I've mentioned previously, I was a minister for 13 years. And because I really wanted the opportunity to help people and help them find meaning in their life. And the only way I knew to do that as a child was through church. And as I grew into adulthood, I just continued on that path. And part of it is getting so focused on your path that you don't really realize where it's taking you. I was committed to studying the things I wanted to study and doing the things I wanted to do. And I really never considered who I might date or who I might be at my core of my being or anything. I simply was living my life every day. So I finished college. I spent 2 years after college in Manila working with college students there, and then came back to the States for seminary. And I was in seminary for 4 years. While I was there, I was working with international students in Fort Worth. I also spent my summers and spring breaks doing various mission projects in Savannah. And after seminary, my first assignment was as a campus minister for the Southern Baptist Convention at Georgia Tech in Atlanta. And I really enjoyed my time there. I have always had a passion and an interest for working with college students because I felt like that was such a influential time on a person's life when they really developed who they are. And obviously, I didn't take much time to do that because I was so focused on my schooling and then later my career that I never really thought about relationships. After my year at Georgia Tech, I became a missions director for a group of churches in South Carolina, back in my hometown. And I thoroughly enjoyed that job. And unfortunately, I ended up having to leave it probably about 6 months to a year before I wanted to. I had begun to think after I had gotten settled into my career, what do I want out of life? And one of the things I decided at that time was that I wanted to be in a relationship with a man. And at that time, I was still living as a man. And so obviously the churches were not down with that. And before I could make a plan to transition, I was asked to leave, basically. And so I spent the next several years working in retail management just because it was the easiest job to find, especially since I had no idea what I wanted to do. I could have just jumped into a Christian group that accepted members of the LGBT community. But as all of this happened, I was beginning to question what I really believed, because up to that point, I'd been just studying what I was taught. That happens with many children growing up, regardless of their faith. They are taught what to believe by their families. And as I pursued my path on the spirit of the spiritual, that was just the natural place for me to be and for things to go. And so I continued to follow that path for so long that when that path ended, I was like, well, wait a second. What do I really think? What do I really believe? And how does that relate to how I live my life? And honestly, the first 5 or so years after that, I did not spend much time thinking about the philosophical or the spiritual. I spent all of my time figuring out how to financially survive, and what it was I actually wanted to do if I had a choice about what I did. And I finally decided that I would use my role in retail to move to another city that would be more welcoming, and I could make more friends and begin to explore some avenues where I might be accepted as a member of the gay community. And so I went to I looked for a position in Charlotte at that time because that's really where I wanted to move. It was a lot closer to my family than Atlanta, but ultimately there wasn't a position there. And so I moved to Atlanta to work at a store in Alpharetta, which is where I live now, and have for 16, 17 years now. It's probably 17 years because I lived for an apartment for 2 years before I purchased my townhouse where I live now. And I've been here for 15 years. Um, and it wasn't like an overnight thing where I realized who I was and what I wanted in life and just did it. It was a very slow process. I had times where I um, waited tables between jobs because one job ended and another one hadn't started. I had to refinance my house or at least restructure it a couple of times because of changes in my income between the time I purchased it and the reality of where I was at that time. I went through, let's see, one, two, three, probably 5 churches here in Atlanta area that all over Atlanta, because sometimes I would drive all the way to Decatur from Alpharetta, and sometimes I tried churches closer to Alpharetta, but never really found the right fit for me because I was looking for somewhere that I felt supported and that I was welcomed. And a lot of churches are welcoming in that they'll let you be involved. But when it came right down to it, when I needed support, i.e., I had surgery or there was a crisis in my life, there was not anyone there for me. And so I eventually ended up in a Unitarian Universalist church about 10 years ago. And that is actually when I was able to start actually figuring out what I believe, because it wasn't a church that had a specific doctrine. It has a set of principles, which I agree are wonderful ideas. And those principles, allow you to explore for yourself what works spiritually and what doesn't. And one of the things that I have been working with for the last 15 years has been the tarot. And the more that I study the tarot and the more that I've worked with the tarot, I feel like I have learned more about myself. I've become more who I want to be as a human being. And about 10 years ago or so, I started living as female. And so, and I am happier now than I've ever been in my life. My tarot practice is taking off for me, and I personally am in a much better place than I have ever been. Things have really come together over the last couple of years. I will say that working from home has just been a great experience for me. I have so much more time in my day to do things than I did when I was commuting to work. And because of the change in the way my job, I no longer have to deal with as many people on a daily basis. And so I'm not completely drained when I get home, and I have more time to work with clients and to talk with my friends, though it's mostly online now, and just spend time actually being a human being. It's amazing how much a job can take out of your life. And I've never been one of those people who have considered my job part of my life. I've considered it just a necessary thing that I do to survive. And I do probably like my work better now, working from home, than I did working in an office with other people whose personalities can sometimes give you more anxiety than the job itself, right? Um, so, yeah, that's a little bit about me and my journey and where I've come from and where I've been going. And what's happening right now is I am both have begun working on projects that have been lifelong interest for me that I just kept putting off because I really wasn't in a place to say commit time to something because I was too busy trying to survive. And it's sad that I'm 50 before I get to that point where I feel like I have the time and the energy and the passion and desire to do the things I've wanted to do most of my life. But it is what it is. And I'm happy that I'm finally at that place. And so I want to thank everyone who's watched and checked in with me over the last few months as I have gained momentum in my creativity and practices and made some significant lifestyle changes. I have lost a lot of weight and my health is much better than it has ever been. And I am starting to get out in the community and be active with other people. So um, I will be going on vacation starting Wednesday. So this will be the last video on YouTube for the week until the next Wednesday, where I have a VR coming out about my tarot aesthetic. It actually started out as a hashtag I was going to do called Gateway Decks, but I discovered this other tag, not my tarot aesthetic, and decided to do that tag rather than start a new one. So that'll be coming out on the next Wednesday. And then we will resume our 78 cards in 78 weeks on the 24th, which is 2 days after my birthday, if you are paying attention. And but I will see you here on Instagram in over the next 2 days as I do my daily card pulls before I start vacation. Until then, everyone, good journeys and thank you for checking in.